The Pikmin franchise, still waiting for its breakthrough moment. There have been multiple Pikmin installments over the years, and they've been multi-million sellers, but they've never really had that breakthrough moment. Let's call it the Fire Emblem moment. Fire Emblem went on for a long time. It took a long time for it to get outside of Japan, and then eventually the franchise saw an installment that really connected with audiences worldwide, and Fire Emblem is a huge franchise for Nintendo now. Pikmin has not had that moment. Could Pikmin 3 Deluxe be that moment? I really hope so, because the game didn't really have a chance to find an audience on the Wii U, because the Wii U didn't really find an audience. So a more niche Nintendo franchise on a Nintendo console that didn't really sell well. So didn't really have a fair shake, but the Switch is much better positioned to help games find an audience with a much larger install base. And obviously this is a first-party title, so that helps. And we've seen multiple Wii U first-party games come to Switch and sell infinitely better on this platform than they did Wii U. So I have no doubt Pikmin 3 Deluxe is going to outsell Pikmin 3, but the question is it going to be the breakthrough moment for the franchise? I seriously hope so, because I've been a Pikmin fan from day one, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe is probably one of my favorite Switch games out there right now. Here's a question we should tackle right from the beginning. What is Pikmin? Because there are a lot of Nintendo fans who have never played a Pikmin game, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe could very well be their first installment in the franchise. Pikmin is a real-time strategy game with puzzle elements, but also it's kind of like a Metroidvania, because you'll have different areas you can explore. They're self-contained areas, so think of them as like giant levels. And each level will have locations that you can visit, but you can't access everything yet. So you'll have something blocking your path or some sort of obstacle you can't get around. And you're just like, oh, I guess I'll have to come back here later once I know what's up. And then you'll gain access to different abilities that will let you into those areas. So it's not a interconnected Metroidvania title, you know, like Symphony of Night or something like that is one giant map. This is little pieces of a overall map, but you don't travel between them. You just go to a menu and you pick where you want to go. But you will be traveling back and forth to access new areas, because there's things you need to do there to continue the story. There's things you might want to get to enhance your abilities, and there's a whole bunch of mechanics that I need to talk about separately in Pikmin. But I do think it's important to note the pseudo Metroidvania aspect of the game, because I think that might entice people more and might not make them as nervous when they hear real-time strategy, because I know I was nervous when I first heard that about Pikmin all those years ago, but I decided to take the plunge because I was a Nintendo fan and I trusted that Nintendo would make something enjoyable, even if it was in a franchise or a genre that I didn't really like. And that's what it turned out to be. So hopefully I can paint a picture for you that has you wanting to check this game out. So what's Pikmin 3 Deluxe all about? You play as multiple characters who have gotten shipwrecked on a planet. They were sent out to find a food source for their own home planet, and they end up crashing on this mysterious foreign planet, and they find out that there is a food source here in fruit. And you have to collect the fruit to not only stay alive while you're on this journey, but also in the hopes of bringing it home to help your home planet sustain itself. While you're doing that, you get split up in the beginning when you initially crash, so you have to find the other pilots that are with you, and eventually all three of you work together to scour the planet for fruit and find a way to fix your ship and get home. Now you're just playing as what looks like tiny little characters in a giant world, so you don't really stand a chance on your own, and that's where Pikmin come into play. The various captains come across Pikmin of different varieties and realize that these Pikmin will work with them. You can control them by blowing a whistle to get them to gather around you, and you can move a cursor to throw them out there and have them do your bidding, basically. They can attack enemies, they can carry things back to the ship that will, they can carry fruit back to the ship, they can carry these little pellets back to the ship that will are used to grow more Pikmin. You can carry the carcasses of dead enemies back to the ship, and that will grow more Pikmin as well. They'll carry bridge pieces. There's a whole bunch of different stuff to do with Pikmin, obviously, because this is called Pikmin 3 Deluxe. And the Pikmin are absolutely crucial to your success on this planet. You need these Pikmin to survive, and you need to manage them really well, because if you don't have enough, and you don't watch them carefully, and you don't take care of them, then you're going to be screwed. So there's multiple layers of resource management in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, because you have to take care of your Pikmin, you have to find enough fruit so that you can continue on, because each day that you spend on your mission requires 1 bottle of fruit juice, and different fruit will squeeze out different amounts of juice. So, you know, a watermelon might get you a couple days worth of juice or 3 days worth of juice, whereas like a cherry will get you maybe 1 day's worth of juice if you're lucky. So you have to, while you're exploring for ways to get home, and while you're hunting down new types of Pikmin, and while you're just trying to figure out what happened to your ship and how to fix it, you also have to make sure you're finding fruit to stay alive and continue your journey. So there's definitely management, and fruit's all over the place, so you shouldn't really have a problem with that. It might be a little tough early on in the game, but as you go on, you should stockpile fruit, no problem. But Pikmin management is really the name of the game, and I guarantee, no matter how good you think you are in protecting your Pikmin and being safe, you are going to lose Pikmin. I go into every Pikmin game thinking, okay, I've played enough Pikmin, I know what to do, I am not going to lose any Pikmin, and I always lose Pikmin. And you can say, well, you just regrow them with pellets or carcasses or whatever. Sure, you do that, but if you're a monster, then you don't care about the ones that die. I am not a monster. I'm not like, oh, I could just replace them. I care. Because you see a little ghost fly out when they get killed, and you hear their little noise, and it's absolutely terrible. And it motivates you to play as carefully and smartly as you can, because you hate seeing that happen, even though all the Pikmin act the same as far as you're concerned. Like, they run over to you when you blow the whistle, and they don't do anything different really as far as interactions with you. It still hurts to lose them. So between enemies ambushing you or making stupid mistakes, I can't tell you how many stupid mistakes I made where I left Pikmin in the path of a rolling boulder and I crushed like 2 or 3 of them. Or, you know, I thought I knew a boss pattern and it changed into something different and I lost a couple more Pikmin. It's so frustrating, it's so saddening, but it is great motivation for trying harder the next time around. And as long as you're playing as intended, and you're not like resetting the game when you lose 20 Pikmin in a boss battle, then you should come away with a unique feeling and experience while you're playing. I can't stress how much there is to do and see in every level in Pikmin 3 Deluxe. You might think a map looks small at first, but when you dive down into it and you actually explore, you realize how much is going on. As I said, there's some stuff you won't be able to do until you unlock other Pikmin, so you're going to have to play a little bit into the story and then backtrack later. There's red Pikmin that are immune to fire, there's yellow Pikmin for electricity, there's blue Pikmin that can go in water, there's rock Pikmin that can crush stuff and can't be stomped on. There's a flying Pikmin that can travel across water and pluck certain plants that other things can't, or other Pikmin can't. And you're going to have to combine all these Pikmin types into exploring different aspects of levels. And there are some interesting and neat puzzles in there, and just so much to do and see. I felt really compelled to explore every nook and cranny just because I unlocked a new Pikmin and I want to see how much further I could get in an original level, or I just wanted to go around and see what there is because the level design is really great. There's just lots of stuff to explore, there's lots of different paths to take, and there's so much actually when you first land that you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. You could follow the objective, which might be like you're tracking a beacon, and it's like the beacon source is coming from over here, and you look at the map and you go that way. Or you could just, you know, go whatever way you want. And as I said, there's going to be all kinds of challenges around, there's going to be areas you can't access, there's going to be enemies that you perhaps haven't seen before. So there's a lot of danger while you're exploring, but that's what makes it that much more engaging. You never know what's going to be around the next corner. Now, I played Pikmin 3 Deluxe 2 ways. I played it with the Switch Pro controller, which is how I played through the entire demo, and then I moved over to the Switch Joy-Con for the rest of the regular game. And I have to say, The Pro Controller was more than fine. If you like playing with Pro Controller or more traditional controls, you can do that. You can also use gyroscopic controls to control the reticle for where you're aiming to throw your Pikmin, or blowing the whistle to gather them. Or you can do Joy-Con, and you can also use gyro controls there if you want. And I use gyro controls in both situations, but man, the split Joy-Con is the way to go. At least it was the way to go for me. You know, it's something akin to how Super Mario Galaxy was handled in Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So you do have to hit the recalibrate button while you're playing, and it seems like you have to do it here more than you do in Galaxy. But again, it never bothered me, and it was the perfect way for me to play. I think using gyro controls leads to a much smoother, more engaging experience, and I can just more easily move the reticle where I want to, rather than, you know, manipulating the joystick to put the reticle over the Pikmin. So that's the way I played. That's the way I really enjoyed, and I felt it was done really well. I'm not going to say it would be better than the Wii remote and nunchuck setup was on the Wii, but gyro controls overall, yeah, that's the way that I felt really meshed with my playstyle. Honestly, I think the most important thing to discuss with Pikmin 3 Deluxe is the atmosphere, and that really is something that goes for Pikmin in general as a franchise. There's really not any other Nintendo franchise that does such a good job of mixing a calm, soothing feeling with a feeling of impending doom, and that's the entire game, because the environments are serene, the audio design is fantastic, everything looks lush and gorgeous, it just looks like a nice place, and then you have the horror of keeping track of Pikmin and trying not to get them killed, and Pikmin dying left and right, and always worrying, oh my god, what enemy is going to be around the corner. So there's all kinds of stuff like that, and mixing those two feelings together just gives me such a unique vibe that not only do I not get in other Nintendo games, but I don't get in from many games at all. It's so interesting to me that they've created a game that really puts you on the edge of relaxation and horror in all the best ways. Just the design of the characters and the design of the approach to the story. There's just such a cute feeling to it, but also, again, a horrific feeling to all of it too, because it's like watching a nature documentary. So that's the best way to put it, really. You get the same kind of feelings you get from a nature documentary. So you're watching and you're like, oh, look at these cute animals, please don't let something come along and eat them. That's exactly what Pikmin feels like. Now, if you've already played Pikmin 3, should you get Pikmin 3 Deluxe? I don't know. That's a question you're going to have to answer for yourself. The main selling point for those who are looking to double dip is the new side story stuff, which features Olimar and Louie, and you get to see what goes on with them in the story outside of what happens in the main story of Pikmin 3 Deluxe. And you have to get to a point where you unlock it, but then you can play it at the same time if you want. So you can bounce back and forth between the main game and the side stories. And it's really great to see what happened. It's traditional Pikmin stuff, but it's great to see the story, how the two played out. So I really enjoyed seeing that. I would have bought Pikmin 3 Deluxe on Switch even if it didn't have that extra content, but I'm really easy to please. If you are looking for more reason to double dip, this has all the DLC if you didn't play that. This also lets you play the story co-op, which is something I didn't get to experience because, you know, the whole pandemic thing. I haven't really been hanging with friends in person, but it's there if you have some to play with, so that's a great option. Then there's bingo battles and all that stuff too. So there's not a ton of extra new content. Like I said, the Olimar and Louie stuff is really the main draw, so you have to decide if that, I would say, is a selling point for you to double dip. It's really enjoyable, but it is more of the same mostly, and I don't mean that as a knock. You're getting it mostly for the story stuff, so if you're interested in that, maybe you should check it out. Now, if you haven't played Pikmin 3 or you've never played a Pikmin game, I cannot recommend Pikmin 3 Deluxe enough. You absolutely have to get this game. I'm dead serious. It's one of my favorite games on the Switch. I desperately want the Pikmin franchise to get more of an audience. It so deserves it. And again, I understand that the genre of the game can be scary, but don't let that stop you from experiencing this, because it is so fresh and it is so unique and it is so engaging and it has all those little Nintendo touches. It's an absolutely wonderful experience. I really don't think you'll have a bad time with it. You might hate losing Pikmin, we all do, but just the whole adventure and the wonder and the exploration of it and just the way it's all handled, such a fantastic experience. I really, really am crossing fingers and toes that this game takes off, because it so deserves to be played by a much larger audience than has ever played any other Pikmin game. So I really can't give Pikmin 3 Deluxe enough praise. Like I said, the only sticking point will be people who are looking to double dip. I don't know if the content's going to be enough for you if you're looking for just bonus content to warrant the purchase. But anybody else, this is a must-play experience on the Switch.